Hey everybody, welcome to my video on types of unemployment. I'm making this immediately after introducing unemployment in my previous video. In this video, I'm going to talk about 3 kinds of unemployment and how there's different causes for unemployment. And then I'm also going to talk about the natural rate versus the actual rate of unemployment. So let's talk about them in no particular order. First is frictional unemployment. And frictional unemployment comes from job search. The idea is that it's hard for someone who is looking for work to find a job right away. It takes them some time to locate a job and get hired. This happens during good times and bad times. It just comes from having imperfect information or imperfect mobility in a labor market. There is structural unemployment, and this one is more built into the market also. It has to do with that there is a mismatch between the workers' skills and the firm's desire for skills, the skills they need at a given price. And so what that means is that at the current prices, our market's not in equilibrium. This could happen if firms or workers had market power, or if there was a minimum wage or unions or whatever, something that makes it so that the quantity supplied does not equal the quantity demanded, and there's a mismatch between the kind of workers and the kind of jobs in the economy. So these ones are both often built in, and they happen during good times and bad times, during expansions, during contractions, whatever. The third kind of unemployment is cyclical unemployment, and cyclical unemployment is based on the business cycle. It goes up during recessions and down during. And so those are your 3 kinds of unemployment. The actual rate of unemployment includes the frictional, the structural, and the cyclical components. It's all of them. But there's something else we're interested in, which is only a piece of that. We also might be interested in what happens if you ignore the business cycle. What would be the unemployment rate anyway? And so for this, we're going to talk about the natural rate of unemployment. And the natural rate of unemployment is equal to the frictional and the structural components, but not the cyclical. The natural rate of unemployment is our measure of what unemployment would be with no business cycle. It's a benchmark or a center or a trending average or whatever you want to call it. But it is what the unemployment rate would be if we were at full output. And so a couple of things to point out. If the natural rate is greater than the actual rate, that means that the cyclical rate is less than 0. We have negative cyclical employment. That means we are having good times. That means we are in the upper part of the business cycle. If, on the other hand, the natural rate of unemployment is less than the actual rate of unemployment, then the cyclical unemployment is greater than 0, and we're at the bottom part of the business cycle. And so maybe you'll find some graphs about it. I'll let you do that on your own, but you might see something like this, where there's an unemployment rate on this axis and time on this axis. And over the last few decades in American society, we've seen this natural rate go up and then come back down. But if you add in a cyclical component, the actual rate goes all around it, as there's business cycles, where sometimes we're above it, sometimes we're below it. In these portions, cyclical unemployment is positive, and our actual rate is higher than our natural rate. In these parts, cyclical unemployment is negative, and our unemployment is lower than the natural rate. The reason we're interested in natural rate is because that's the one that we can sustain indefinitely. It does change as markets change and as our laws and society changes, but all of these cyclical fluctuations are short-term. Long-term policy would want to focus on just the natural rate. Short-term policy would then be about minimizing the effects of the business cycle. And so that's why we make these distinctions. Because if we're going to have policy to address unemployment, well, it depends on what kind of unemployment. If it's just about the business cycle, we have unemployment insurance and different kinds of government spending that might help encourage people to work. We can do all kinds of stuff. But if it's about frictional unemployment, our policies would instead have to focus on a way of speeding up the job search process for people. Or if it's about structural unemployment, we might be talking about changing minimum wage or changing labor laws. And that's a different issue entirely. So these are all things for us to think about and consider, but hopefully I gave you good enough definitions to get started. Thanks for watching, guys. Good luck. I gotta go get a crying baby, so yeah, good luck. Happy Econ.